So thank you everyone for attending this webinar. This is the third webinar we are having for our 17th Venice Biennale Hong Kong exhibition. We have a COVID-19 series, and of course, as you may know, particularly for the current situation. And tonight we are going to talk about topic about of a social distancing, which is I'm sure a lot of people are already very familiar with and already experienced it ourselves. Tonight we are very honored to have two speakers, guest speakers tonight. First is Ms. Winnie Ho, JP, Deputy Director of RHSD in Hong Kong. And the second guest speaker is So Tsz-wai, and he is one of our exhibitor this year for the Venice Biennale. And he teamed up with CCG Chinachem Group to produce a fantastic film, which you can have a chance to look at the trailer later tonight in the evening. Also, Tsz-wai will also explain the concept and the process behind his film. Can you now see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
So may I take maybe some time to give a formal introduction for our guest. So Ms. Winnie Ho, JP, is Deputy Director of RHSD, and she joined the government as an architect in 1992. Since then, her career has been closely associated with development of public buildings, infrastructures, urban planning of Hong Kong. You okay?
Yes.
Yes. She started with her first posting in RHSD, designing and delivering public facility, including school, public laboratory, leisure, culture, and sports facilities, and government offices, of course. And Ms. Ho was posted to Development Bureau in 2010 and assumed the post as the Deputy Head of Energizing Kowloon East Office of the Development Bureau in February 2012. She took up the challenging policy initiative to transform the Kowloon East from an old industrial area into an additional business district to support the long-term economic development of Hong Kong. She returned to RHSD in August 2016 and is now the Deputy Director of the RHSD to oversee the works and services of the department for continuous improvement on public works with the application of new technologies, innovation to build up a quality living environment for Hong Kong. So I personally know Winnie very well. He's a very nice person. She is always very busy, but always very support to all the event in Hong Kong related to public space and architecture. So thank you very much, Winnie, for joining us.
Thank you for your introduction, Paul.
Thank you. The other speaker tonight is So Tsz-wai. He is a co-founder and creative director of Floron Architects. So Tsz-wai actually grew up in Hong Kong, like myself, and he studied architecture in the University of Hong Kong, graduating in 2003 as the recipient of the Ho Fook Prize in Architecture. He later moved to United Kingdom and studied for a master's degree in building history at Wolfson College, University of Cambridge. And in 2011, he co-founded Floron Architects with Samuel Burnham Mansell in London. He was identified as a rising star by the RIBA Journal in 2016. He's a very strong proponent of emotional architecture, focusing on emotional aspect of architecture. He's also an architectural critic for influential industry publications such as RIBA Journal, and also a committee member of the Foundation of Jewish Heritage, and now a visiting lecturer at the University of Westminster. So thank you, Tsz-wai, for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
And for Tsz-wai's team for the exhibit for our Venice Biennale, actually the three key persons from the Chinachem Group. They are Sylvia Zhong from the Corporate Communications, she is the director, and also Susanna Lui, project assistant for marketing and partnership, and last but not the least, Margaret Ng, the project assistant. So Chinachem Group teams working very closely to Tsz-wai to produce the fantastic film for the Venice Biennale this year. Okay, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Paul Mui. I'm one of the curators for the Venice Biennale Hong Kong this year and next year. So tonight we'll talk about, we will divide this evening into two parts. The first part will talk about the redistribution of people, one of our key topics of our curatorial statement. So I took the liberty to put up two questions for our guest speaker, or maybe for the audience as well. The first one is, how would you interpret the redistribution of people in the context of our modern urban environment, which is both our speakers have a vast experience on public architecture. And the second question would be, how do you see the consequence of redistributing people imposed on our land and environment? And these two aspects are also the other two main themes of our VB Venice Biennale this year. So I know Winnie has prepared some material to share with us for these two questions. So Winnie, do you mind sharing your material and be the first one to kick off?
Yes, okay, thank you, Paul. I think this is two very good questions that comes in a good time when we have all experienced some very unusual period of our time. And they are actually very interesting during the past year. Obviously, everybody is having a hard time overcoming the COVID. But at the same time, you see things start to change in our behavior and how we try to go through this difficulty with our imagination, our resilience. So I work with my colleague, and I have to thank my colleague Yo-Yo to help me to put together this PowerPoint presentation. And we do discuss about what we have observed and learned during this period. Redistribution of people. Obviously, every one of us has experienced a lot of change in life pattern and change in habits. During weekends, this is what we used to do, right? I still miss my dim sum in the Chinese restaurant with families. We call our friends, we meet up, but now we can't meet up in big groups. We have to maintain a good social distance. We, like a common habit of all urban dwellers, we go to shopping malls, we mingle, and it's just like repeating an old habit without much thinking. We go to the mall, shopping, eating, and our streets is like that all around the department stores. But now with this, we have to think. We are forced to think. So you can actually see a migration of people from our city to outdoor areas. Hong Kong people are never that outdoor to me. We are mostly, brought up in shopping, and a lot of eating indoor. But now we start to enjoy the countryside, and we are actually seeing a lot of very busy beaches. People are getting more creative in the use of our open space. Of course, we also create other problems in our open space. It's not just the urban space, but also the countryside. This is the place that we go. And so some new building types that has become more important. Some of the clients, previously we don't work too closely with the agriculture and fishery department, because most of the country park, they take care of the country park themselves. They built the pavilion, they built the barbecue pits, and so on. But now this client has become more important and would work more closely with RHSD in the future, because people are going to the country park, they are exploring the country park more. And so we have more opportunity of buildings, nice small structures in the country park. This one is called the Hoiha Resource Center. And we are very, very glad that this project comes in very good time. It's going to be open later this year. I heard November or December. So I suggest that you can go to have a look. But on the other hand, this building shall be enjoyed in small groups because it celebrates the integration with our countryside. It celebrates Hoiha, which is of such an unusual quality. And it's the tranquility and the integration and celebration of the nature. With our city people, we are brought up as city dwellers, seldom have the chance to quiet down and breathe. And during the COVID, everybody needs to relax, to breathe, and to calm down with family in outdoor space and in such a nice setting. A space to, do your meditation. I imagine that I would love to do yoga in a space with my friend like this, or just sit and enjoy some tea tasting workshops. So you can imagine this sort of space is start to be appreciated by people. And this is another small project that we work with AFCD, the Agriculture Department. This is called the Stargazing Facility. Gazing stars, not many people in Hong Kong have that experience to quiet down, take a walk to our countryside. This is in Taiwan. And when we do this project, we try to, you see the meandering shape to celebrate this meandering form of this piece of land with the landscape. And the building process is also very challenging. We have to divide the chairs into modular units and transport to the site by helicopters. And toilets, this is very practical. When so many people go to the countryside, we need more public toilet facilities. We need to help the agriculture department. So we are also studying the modular toilets, how to transport these modular units into remote sites. And we have done a few very interesting projects. The one on the left-hand side is the before version. And the one on the right-hand side is the after version. So you can see the contrast of before and after, how designers can transform the building shape and style into something much nicer, with washing facility, a hand washing facility outside, ventilation, and the style that fits into the countryside. So we are also studying modular units and the combination of various units to put to the countryside. At the moment, you may be aware that we are organizing a design competition with the Environmental and Food Department, Tsz-wai So. And this one, and this one, it's for the Agriculture Department, and we are using the same concept that modules can fit into different sites. And this is a list of possibilities that we can explore. And the redistribution of people also go into the urban parks. So the urban parks are actually becoming more important because you don't want to stay at home all the time. So, and you don't want to travel far because you don't want to be very crowded and empty out. So you walk down the road and enjoy the park nearby. And we try to integrate different themes like this industrial theme in Guntong. and use artwork and work with artists to create the park. And this is the Candle Temple, and how we integrate the park into this heritage site with a lot of historical stories. And this park also offers a breathing space in a very dense area, and this inclusive design concept. Another opportunity is the Kaidak Station Square, which is a big urban park, and we are trying out different urban space and concepts to create such a vast scale of urban space for the citizens. So buildings, people know the importance of this cross ventilation, open air. So when we design our urban complex, we also allow the space and the air, the ventilation to breathe through the building. The courtyards are much more appreciated. Previously, people prefer to be in an enclosed environment, weatherproof, but now they start to appreciate the importance of the breathing space, trees, light, and activities that it can be created and arranged in this semi-open sort of environment are also appreciated. Flyovers, the space under the flyover have a lot of potential. I think the Kwun Tong flyover has done a very good job, and the operator, I really appreciate the operator to operate the space and facility under this space so well. And the layering from the seaside waterfront under the flyover with eating and coffee, food kiosks, it makes this a barge, loading and loading barge area much more interesting and much more appropriate for our modern life. So our waterfront have a lot of potential, and we also have more projects coming, and these will be open to the public early next year. And I hope that the Harbour Office will also arrange design competition for some of these spaces. So there are a lot in hand that RCSD is working on around all these concepts of city well-being to live a more fulfilling life. We keep ourselves alive, intergenerational activity that will offer a lot of good breathing space for everyone. So we want to build an inclusive city and a resilient city for all. So that's my PowerPoint for this topic. So we can also have some discussion afterwards.
Thank you very much, Winnie. I think it's fantastic. It's amazing to see there are so many public projects are actually ongoing with RCSD in Hong Kong.
Yes.
I think most of the people are same as me aware of the RCSD is actually leading the effort to creating a different scale of public space in Hong Kong. We have seen from your PowerPoint, there's a mega scale, almost like a country park intervention. Yes. There is also a urban park squeezing every single space from the old city to, for example, Aopang, revitalizing some old building to create a public park. And also within the building scale itself, like the library, also within the building scale, there's also public space people can enjoy. So I want to raise a response maybe to Tsz-wai. So how do you also grew up in Hong Kong, and experienced the built environment in different cities. For example, you work and study in the UK, in London, and you also live some time in Hong Kong. How do you see these type of public space? How do you see people interact with this public space compared to like a European city or in Hong Kong? How do you see this happening?
Well, I think Winnie is right. Hong Kong people, indoor people, they tend to be, and I think that the pandemic urged them to actually get out more. I remember I was with my British colleagues back in February when we visited Hong Kong to make the film for Chinachem, and we were really enchanted by the beautiful countryside of Hong Kong. But I don't think the locals really appreciate that that much. And I'm not sure I'm answering your question at all. How do you mean how does it compare to Europeans in terms of
in terms of public space?
Public space.
Maybe in put it in this way, like Hong Kong is very interesting geographically. Like, you know, some of you guys may know that Hong Kong is only using 5 to 10% of the land for, you know, for buildings. And still a majority of our land is still dedicated to country park, which is in Singapore, almost 80% of the land are developed for building, for offices, for workspace, for houses, for flats. So in London, we wouldn't have that, even, you know, although you have like Zone 6, Zone 5, but, you know, talking about the central, you know, metropolitan city area, you know, you don't see that vast amount of urban park within Zone 1. So how do you see like people using these different type of space in London and in Hong Kong?
Well, in London, we do have the green belt, which means you're not allowed to build in the area immediately surrounding Greater London. So, but it's not quite the same as Hong Kong. Hong Kong is super dense, as you rightly pointed out. We've only have 10% built-up area. I think London is a different case because it has so many world-famous museums and galleries to visit, and well, I'm not saying Hong Kong doesn't have those at all. On contrary, you do have some really high-profile public institutions, art galleries, and so on. I think the culture is really different here. I think people enjoy outdoor activities more, and in all fairness, we do have many large-scale public spaces in central London, huge squares. But again, you could argue you have Victoria Park as well in Hong Kong. So I don't know. I think I tend to agree with Winnie. I think Hong Kong people by nature are more indoor people, but I was really carried away by the project she just shown us, because I think she talks a lot about ventilation and all that. This is something I didn't really experience when I was living in Hong Kong. Growing up, we all enjoy hiding in an air-conditioned indoor environment. I think this is something really new to me, because I've left Hong Kong almost 2 decades ago, and this idea of really making use of the natural resources, i.e., natural ventilation to breathe in fresh air is really something quite refreshing to me, and I'm really glad to see that change from air-conditioned environment to a naturally ventilated space.
Yeah, actually, when we designed the buildings, 10 years ago, our clients also would expect very often a fully air-conditioned box and weatherproof. But it's a recent trend since we talk more about green building, green architecture, and these beam assessment that drive us to think about the building design and how it interact with the outdoor space. And I think maybe our citizens are getting younger and more influenced from the young people. Many of them, maybe like you, has been educated overseas. They like sports. They like running along the park. Jogging has become very popular. So these movement and these new behavior from the people have drive the government to provide something differently. And our projects are very interesting, but I have to thank my clients. The LCSD 康文處、漁護處 and many interesting clients who offered opportunities for us. And of course, the designers, including our consultants, have explored these potentials quite well with our client, and also our waterfront and our waterfront harbor office. They have a very good mission under leadership like Vincent. So we work with a lot of good people, and we like to observe how the user use our space, and then we enhance and improve our design as we go along.
Thank you. So I think from another thing I see from Winnie's presentation on the works from RHSD is that we see a very bright side of the Hong Kong future. We see a very optimistic, forward-looking public space, which is, I think, is a big contrast to Tsz-wai's exhibit this year in Venice Biennale. From, I think, Tsz-wai's, from his film, I mean, from what I look at his film is, He's almost about his memory about a loneliness of being in the city in Hong Kong, which is a big contrast to Winnie's talk on the right side. So maybe it's time for Tsz-wai to talk about his film and his memory on the Hong Kong as almost the film is quite gray. I mean, the color is gray. I'm always like a negative version of Winnie's work over there.
Dear.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Tsz-wai, are you ready?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should I do that? Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, let's get started. Yeah. Well, talking about redistribution of people, I think we may tend to think of it in terms of migration and movement, but redistribution of people could also be interpreted as redistribution of human qualities as well. And we will come to that in a moment. Well, I'm here mainly to talk about our film. Chinachem and I have produced a short film entitled Emotional City for the Biennale. And this presentation will explain the gestation of the film, the development process of the film. And I'm going to talk about the film without giving too much away in terms of the plot, just to make sure there are no spoilers. So you still should go to watch the film if you could. We start the collaboration by looking at the main theme of the Venice Biennale, which is the question, how will we live together? It is a really timely question to ask, given the situation we are in. And the question also reminds us of the provocation made by Cedric Price back in 1966, when he famously said, "Technology is the answer, but what was the question?" On the face of it, it seems that we have found the perfect match for the question and the answer. Technology is going to figure out how will we live together. But is technology really the answer? Well, according to the chief curator of the Biennale, Hashim Sakis, it is not going to be technology. Sorry, I just spotted a typo there, I forgot to fix. It is ultimately down to our collective imagination that would get us to the future. But before we work out what does he mean by our collective imagination, we need to first ask ourselves what kind of future we are heading to and how will we live together in that future. According to British architectural critic and author Herbert Wright, we are sleepwalking into an algorithm-driven future. And whether we realize or not, we're actually going through a revolution like no other. We're going through the digital revolution, and just like the industrial revolution in the past, the digital revolution of our time is a turning point in history, in the sense that it will bring irreversible changes to every aspect of our daily life. And the COVID-19 pandemic lockdowns have helped accelerate that irreversible changes. Our data are being harvested, information presented to us being manipulated, locking us in an echo chamber, and it gives us a false sense of free will. This is where the redistribution takes place, a redistribution of authenticity, a trade-off. We allow AI to take our data and make decisions for us in exchange for comfort and convenience. We, the people, are redistributing what we do and think and say into a digital field, and that digital field, or matrix if you like, is redistributing us as data. Artificial intelligence is going to rule our smart city, and our emotional space is becoming more and more disconnected from the real world. Our digital life will be deepened. Workplaces, shops, classrooms, museums, and auditoria have been sucked into the screen during the lockdowns. Already, architecture is digitalizing fast, from virtual reality to architectural modeling to BIM. The digital shift affects the very functions and aesthetics of buildings. And AI is transitioning from a worker's tool to a worker's replacement. And it is now advancing into creative territory as well. Now, I just want to show you this painting. This is a portrait of Edmond de Bernamy, which was sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars 2 years ago. But most importantly, this painting was created by algorithm. If AI can teach itself to be creative, who are we to say it can't replace architects one day? Our film is based on these ideas, and really is about questioning what makes us human in the first place. And it explores the relationship between human emotions and the built environment. We shot hours of footage in Jinwan, where Chinachem is based, back in February and March, and we have cut it down to approximately 10 minutes in the end. The film is an intimate portrayal of the human experience in a city through the eyes of a young artist who's tracing her childhood memories. The film is also influenced by a French concept called psychogeography, the idea of drifting through the city based on emotions, seeing it in a different way. So while mankind is sleepwalking into an algorithm-driven urban future controlled by AI, she drifts through the mesmerizing urban landscape of diverse feelings within which she rediscovers beauty and authenticity. And through her imagination, we perceive a city differently. The film is narrated by Herbert, and he uses cinematography to explain the connection between emotion and the city. Our emotions are linked to our memories, and the city is the archive of our private and collective memories. So going forward, we need to ask whether we want to lose ourselves in a digitalized, animated, AI designed city, or we would rather use our own creativity to build a human-centric city, a truly emotional city filled with authentic memories. Now we also would like to ask, how do we reconcile our human qualities with our AI God in the post-digital age? We don't want to impose our answer on anyone, and the film has an open ending, and we invite viewers to draw their own conclusions. And finally, I just want to finish the presentation by showing you the trailer, and I hope it works. Just bear with me for one sec. Sorry, I just need to switch to the trailer now. Okay. bridge between the real and the digital. Right, that's about it, really. Thank you very much, guys. I hope you could hear the sound. I don't know.
Yeah, the sound is a bit soft, but I think we can still appreciate the beautiful setting of your trailer. So I can't wait to see the full film in the virtual exhibition. So yeah, as I said, it's after you have seen Tsz-wai's presentation, you can see some of the memory he has in Hong Kong. Is I mean, for my personal view, is quite quite on a sad side. Then like questioning about how the AI are overcoming our relationship with environment, and also focusing on the dense living environment in Hong Kong. So before I pose the response questions to Ms. Winnie, I want to, because I think it's quite related, I want to share with another question I want to pose. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think it's quite related to Tsz-wai's theme and also Winnie's topic, regarding the redistribution of people for example, to our own city. Like Hong Kong is very interesting place about immigration of people. Like if we remember in 1960, a lot of people are coming to Hong Kong from mainland of China to form the new forces of Hong Kong. So they are the new citizens in Hong Kong. I mean, including both of my grandparents. And so those Hong Kong people now is actually experience another redistribution of workforce. Like we're now moving into the mainland area to work, and almost in an opposite direction. Like if you compare these two images, now we are moving up, and then before people are moving down. And this immigration of people, in my point of view, are actually shaping our built environment, shaping our land allocation and our demand to our society. So I want to ask our two speakers tonight. So how do you see the redistribution of people informing our built environment? Like for example, like Winnie said, how do this new group of people influence our park design, for example, or to Tsz-wai, how do you see this new group of people shaping the technologies we are developing now? We know that we now have the smart lampposts. We're putting a lot of AI sensors for recording people's movement in the city. Some people feel it quite sensitive about the privacy, and some people think that is a good a way to do it, because with the big data we can have more precise planning of our city, etc. So how do you see these things happening in Hong Kong? Maybe I start with Ms. Winnie. Oh.
Thank you, Paul. First of all, about the parks and the future direction and how we design the parks. Actually, this is a two-way interaction. As an architect, government architect, between our department and as a designer, we often see that when we try to convince our client, like Hong Chu LCSD, to open up the park, to try out water features in the park, very often their frontline manager will share with us their difficulties, or there are all sorts of weird and strange people using the park in a very inappropriate way that fears them. This kind of story, they will tell us, no, this will be, create a lot of problem for their frontline staff. So it's actually a two-way thing. If the park users behave and respect the space, and if they have a kind of discipline when they set the tent, when they have picnic there, when they have a lot of activity, they take care of each other. Actually, the park managers are very willing to give them a free hand. But when they have conflict, or when they create noise, create nuisance to other park users, they have to interfere. So previously, LCSD, many people said that they are trying to control too much. I think it's because of they receive a lot of complaints, on the other hand, from some park users against the other. So the behavior of the park users, if they are good, it will actually give the confidence to our frontline manager, to give them the confidence that, okay, our parks can be designed in certain way, that the users will take care of themselves, like water features. They would do sensible things in the water feature instead of throwing rubbish, throwing the drinks into the water and things like that. So it's a mutual thing. To help us, we would like that everyone, maybe some good organization would be like ambassadors to change the culture of the park users, and to show that some of the parks, when we try out the new design, they will use it well, and we can use these new examples to convince the park managers that we can do more experiments. It should be fine, no worry about that. But I can also understand that there are certain, different district has different culture and behavior. In some district, they can be more open. In other areas, maybe they have to do it bits by bits. And other opportunity that I would like to explore with our client partners is what we call the pocket parks. The pocket parks in the neighborhood, the very, very small spaces. If you can't go far, some old people, they can't walk far to the country parks and even the waterfront. What they can do is just to go downstairs and meet their friends in those pocket parks. So previously, many of those pocket parks are just fenced off with a lot of high boundary walls. We try to remove them. We try to convince the managers that it's fine. Even when we remove the wall, people won't throw their old refrigerator in the park as a rubbish dumping ground. They are strange behavior. They do experience strange behavior. They just take away all those rubbish quickly, so that many people don't see the burden on our managers. So I hope that we can both improve, that the users and the managers and the designer, we should grow and help each other as one. And on the question of AI, I like the presentation by Tsz-wai because it's a contrast to what I have been showing. It's true. As Paul said, I am more colorful, bright, optimistic, and Tsz-wai is actually seeing Hong Kong from our very dense living environment point of view, which is great. I think that's Hong Kong. That's the contrast of Hong Kong that makes our city so interesting And we all see stunning photos on the top of Shan, looking down with the very, very dense living environment in the contrast of all the beautiful hills and mountains surrounding it. I think it's this contrast that makes Hong Kong, Hong Kong, and we should keep it this way. And to answer the question of AI, in my office, in the RHSD, you know, we are also driving, we are also putting a lot of efforts to drive new construction technology. So this idea of AI and integration of the greater use of IT in our daily work is one very, you know, strong topic in the building industry. And the development and the pace of the development is actually out of my expectation. I think we just talked about BIM 3 years ago, but now BIM is everywhere. You must work with BIM when you start to design your drawing. So when internally, when we share about this trend of AI and how it affects architectural design, I will share with my colleagues that, look, I want AI to help us to tackle 3Ds. The 3Ds are dirty, dangerous, and dull. We want our AI to help us to handle the dirty, dangerous, and dull work on site, and the very, very dull part of our drawing and maybe calculating the gross floor area for buildings department submission. That sort of work we give to the AI, let them handle it. But it's the human brain that control the other parts, the creativity, innovation, collaboration for more ideas that is controlled by the human part, and it's Tsz-wai's emotions, psychological need. I don't think the AI can understand that part so quickly. I don't know the development in the future, but at least in the near future and quite some time to go, I think that AI should help human beings in the 3Ds, in particular on our construction sites. I am encouraging our contractors to use more AI to handle the dangerous work, like the gondola cleaning the curtain walls. You see videos when there was strong wind, the gondola swing, and the two workers on the gondola on that what we call the diusi. It's so dangerous. These things can be replaced by robots, and some of the dangerous work by our workers can be replaced by robots. So that's how I see the future of AI and architecture. There is a lot of potential. We should welcome them, but we should think carefully what shall we give to the AI and what we need to interfere and hold in our own hands.
Tsz-wai, to touch on the last part from Winnie about AI, you know, the interesting dilemma between AI and the designer. As a young designer, how do you see the architect's role with AI? Is it AI on our side, or is AI replacing our work, replacing an architect in some sense?
It's a tricky question. I think right now, perhaps the power is still in our hands. It's not too late to really think about you know, how to deal with AI going forward. This is the point I'm trying to make. I mean, we will get to just like British architectural critic Herbert, you know, said in the past. I think, and many other, you know, technology experts also echo that view. You know, we will get to the point of no return in terms of our over-reliance on AI. And I think Winnie summed it up quite nicely. I think we should take advantage of the convenience and comfort it gives us. But the truth of the matter is, AI is quietly redistributing us as data as we speak right now, even right now, and when we're holding this online webinar. And this will only become more prevalent in the post-digital age. So the question really is a matter of asking ourselves, how much are we willing to trade with AI in exchange for convenience and comfort and so on? AI, no doubt, is going to shape our identities. I think the future generation will have a very different identity to ours, because if you think of the young people born after year 2000, they grew up with internet and social media and so on and so forth. They have a very different mentality to ours. In terms of, you can pick a very obvious example in terms of punctuality. Do you still remember back in the days when we didn't have a mobile phone? If you ask someone to meet you somewhere, in Chinachem and those places, you really have to turn up, because if you don't turn up, the other person will be in serious trouble. But nowadays, you just don't have that mentality anymore. In terms of you have to make a commitment to fulfill a promise. I'm not saying young people don't make promises and don't keep promises, but the point I'm trying to make is, quietly, without us knowing, AI is shaping our identities as well as the way we see the world. And unfortunately, Paul, I just don't have an answer to that. I don't really know.
I think it's quite interesting you put emotion and AI together. I remember, I'm not quite sure, it might be Bill Gates said it, like when artificial intelligence has emotion, that would be the end of our humanity.
He's absolutely right. He's absolutely right. And we don't know whether AI could eventually acquire emotions, but you can't discard that possibilities, because after all, emotions, I think, according to many well-known scientists in this field, emotions weren't really something we're born with. Emotions are learned. We construct emotions. Growing up, we picked up data, and then we learn how to construct an emotion. And also, emotions are culture specific as well, and it's not entirely universal, according to many experts in this field. And so which means it's possible to teach AI to learn to construct emotions if we get to that stage, in terms of as far as technology is concerned, which is really worrying.
Yeah, because it might be a positive thing, because when you have emotion, but in the same time you don't have bias, right?
AI is a tricky thing, because AI it could be a really fantastic totalitarian god. Seriously, if you think about that, I don't know. I mean, would you trust a human judge more than a really sophisticated AI judge in a court? I don't know. If you think about that, AI is something truly awesome in that sense.
Well, but I suppose every time when there is a new technological invention or revolution, this sort of discussion will come. When the motor car replaced the horse, I think people will start to worry, we are not, going to, people will rely too much on the car, and that will create the problems and all that. But somehow people make use of that vehicle, and it all depends on whether you are able to be in control of that new tool, or you give yourself away if you are you are lazy and give yourself away and just press the button and trust the answer that come out from that machine, you have lost the game. And you have to you have to be in control, and don't give away your creativity, your imagination. But for the emotion thing, I'm not sure. I've read some articles saying that it's not that easy for this AI to build up emotions in a sophisticated way as human beings. But we never know. We have to watch out. And I'm sure the scientists are also just debating about a lot of the ethical aspect of these AI and new technology at the same time. But we need to stay alert. I agree that we need to stay alert and be careful about this possibility.
Absolutely.
That we go too far. I mean, that we go too far on this.
Yeah, I think it's such a big topic as AI.
Yeah. Yes.
So we can carry on for that in another time. But I think maybe it's time for us to move on to the second part.
Okay.
The second part, we'll talk about social distancing, which is even more interesting now to a lot of people, right? For years with our built environment, we have been talking about bringing people together, and this is actually the main theme of the Venice Biennale this year is how people live together. So I think when people hear this theme, most of the people would think about the positive way of living together, like which means how to bring people together. But what we are experiencing now is a social distancing. It's like preventing us to get together, okay, physically, at least. So how could we learn from this social distancing in terms of our environment as an architect, as an urban designer? So these are my humble two questions posed to our two speakers tonight for the second part. So if Winnie, if you don't mind, maybe we start with you on this part.
Thank you. Okay. Paul, I think you have a good topic. As an architect, as you have mentioned it, everything we are designing, almost everything we are designing, try to bring people together. Before this talk, we talk about our modern workplace approach. We create some communal space so that people in the office can come together to share ideas. That's a very important part of our life. Creativity is through these sharing, discussion, and all that. So during the COVID, we are forced to maintain a social distance. I think many people find it quite painful, actually. We've never designed things for isolation, except for prison cells, right? But this COVID asks us to do this at the same, all the time, in the restaurant, in coffee shop. People, human nature, don't want to be isolated. We'd like to see each other, meet with each other. And, we are facing all these challenges for separation. For RCHD, for the whole year, since January till December, we are building quarantine facilities. This is the most isolated facilities apart from prison cells that I have been building. And interesting thing I have to tell you, I have been involved in these quarantine camps in the search of a suitable site, in designing these units, in preparing the tender, in the construction and handover. And at the end, because my son get COVID in August, I am a close contactor and I have to stay in isolation myself in the Venice Bay quarantine camp for 14 days. So I can tell you my experience of isolation, we move on to our discussion. For our quarantine camp, these are the separated units. Single person live in one of the units. And even when we design the isolation facilities, we can't be in complete isolation because some family member, old people, they are in wheelchairs, they need family support. So we start to build family units where 2 units can be combined so that the wheelchair users can be taken care of by a companion if needed. And in office, we have this work from home arrangement which separate us from the office and we have to stay at home. And there are many challenges by working from home. Apart from these IT setup and making our IT team working day and night to install software for us, to buy new hard equipment for us. You see all these news reporting that mothers working from home actually have a lot of challenge. Not everyone have a suitable space at home to, not many people have the luxury of a nice space at home, quiet, undisturbed, to carry out her office duties. So what shall we do in our future when we design residential buildings? Instead of beautiful clubhouses, shall we build a communal working space within a service compartment or residential development to allow something to happen like this setup to happen if in times of need, right? And on our office setting, I have to maintain a social distance with my IT support now for this webinar. So we also have a different setup. We use a lot more webinar and Zoom, but of course it has a good side of it too. Otherwise, the 43 or 45 of us now in all different places in Hong Kong can't share our views together at this moment. And it brings a lot of convenience to us too. In restaurants, in the design of our furnitures, maybe we need to think of new devices where we can add these plastic sheets and perspex more easily. In our parks, in times of need, we may need to think about more patterns and, you know, colorful ways to remind people they have to maintain social distance in time of need. And in RCHD, we also have set up a new team to think about a design for resilience, design for a more resilient city against typhoon, strong wind, flooding, social disruptions, and epidemic. So small devices like touchless lift button, which is operated by the body heat, things like sensors and controls that help us to switch on and off the air conditioning, and hygiene protection for our design of toilets, air conditioning system, pipe ducts, and all our building services system are being studied in RCHD and will be incorporated in our projects to come, and drainage system and all that. Even our design of courtrooms, we have to think about these separations. So physically, we are forced to be separated, but can we maintain our distance without distance? Can we do distancing without distance? What I mean is even an orchestra, when they are forced to go into the quarantine camps, then can they still make music through Zoom? Can we maintain our collaboration and sharing with each other while we were apart? Maybe we are separated in distance, but we should never separate each other from our heart. So how can we do that? So this is my short presentation of this subject. Thank you.
Thank you, Winnie. Again, super interesting to compare, new typologies we are having now in Hong Kong. At least in my professional life or education background, I haven't seen such a typologies before. I have come across, quarantine facilities in hospital, isolation room, but those are at most like 6 or 7 days, right? Yes. But now we are talking about almost like an estate of these isolation facilities. These people are almost a house in a hotel configuration, but they're not allowed to see or even smell, your neighbor. That's awkward. It just,
Can I share with you? I share with you my 14 days experience, short sharing of that in the quarantine camp? Now, RCHSD has been building, by the end of the year, we will be building 4,200 units of these quarantine camp. As you can see from the plan, it's a very small unit of 3 meters times 6 meters with a set individual toilet and 1 bed, a small desk. We are not allowed, the 14 days, we are not allowed to go out of the room. I will hear broadcasting from time to time saying, hey, campers, you can't walk out of your room, please stay inside. So we are well taken care of through a WhatsApp system. Whatever we are in need, we can WhatsApp to our civil aid services team,民安隊. They are doing a lot of work. I have to thank民安隊 and Department of Health for taking good care of us. Within the 14 days, I work from home. I need to set up my computer very quickly. Actually, the first day I wake up in the morning, my boss do call me at 8:30 to talk about something about the office that I need to take care of. So I start working immediately. The Wi-Fi system is not that good, but I survive. I managed to survive. So the phone and my computer is my connection with the outside world. The gain is such a small space. So every day is so efficient. I wake up, immediately I get to my desk, and everything is in a small space. And I'm well served with a meal every day. And well, maybe I'm a rather optimistic person. I do bring the best things I have with me is my tea, my yoga mat, my music through the iPhone, 2 good books, my pen and some paper to draw. And so whenever I have my own time, it's actually a very good time for almost a meditation. Think about the things you don't have time to think normally because you are always disturbed by other people, meetings, things that you have to take care of at home, private matters. All these are shut off. So you have to, I tell myself, I have to make the best use of that time, the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, totally undeserved, entirely. Every minute is owned by myself. I have to plan that very well. It actually gives me a very unusual experience of a long meditation period during the weekend. For a Saturday, I have given myself several topics that I want to think about to work out my own plan. I just write a lot of things on paper, and I seldom have the luxury that I have a paper and start to draw the things that I like quietly for as long as I wish. And the food is very simple, so it's almost like a cleansing, a mind cleansing and a body cleansing period if you make use of that period well. But of course, my son, his condition is not that serious. It don't worry me too much, and I'm very thankful for the medical team to take very good care of him. So this isolation, again, it has a good side and a bad side. No one likes to be isolated, and my experience, that is called a compulsory quarantine. So it's like you are being forced into isolation. Nobody likes that. But once, if you have to be in that condition, try to make the most out of it. Try to think, what are the good things that can come out of that situation? I think that's the common experience for everyone in Hong Kong, right? We are forced to do something to fight this epidemic. But can we make something good out of it, right? So I think everybody now joining us may have some experience during this year that is good, that is forced out of this COVID. I would like to hear and see what other people have experienced so far.
Yeah, again, Winnie is also very optimistic, no matter what situation she is. So
Yes.
you're absolutely right. I think if we think on a positive side, and then this pandemic actually bringing us together to at least our family, as I heard a lot of people are saying, actually we have more time to spend with our family, because we our time with other people were taken away by the virus. So we have a better time management on other aspects, which we missed in the past.
Yes.
But again, Tsz-wai, I know you want to talk about the dark side on the COVID. You want to talk about solitude, right?
Yeah,
solitude
well,
being...
I thoroughly enjoy Winnie's presentation and her sharing in terms of her time spent in quarantine. In fact, I'm drawing the same conclusion as hers in my presentation. We'll see. But I actually would agree with her in terms of staying positive and trying to make the best out of the situation we are in. Yeah. Should I go on to show my presentation?
Yeah. Please go ahead, and then we can come back more with the discussion on both topics.
Yeah. One second. Right. Okay, I'm going to share my screen now. There you go. Right. Can you see my screen? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. I wasn't aware of Winnie's presentation when I was putting together this short presentation, but I actually tend to agree with what she said, and I thought my views were unorthodox, but apparently they're not. So let me just sorry, I just have to set it up properly. Cool. I don't really have that many grand theories on social distancing, but I'll be happy to share some of my personal observations. Keeping people at arm's length is nothing new, and many did so voluntarily, and some of them go as far as completely withdrawing themselves from the society. For example, hikikomori in Japan, up to 1 million Japanese, mostly men, are living in extreme isolation and confinement, or hermits for both religious and non-religious reasons, like this chap who lived in the mountains of Alaska on his own for 30 years. But I think, as Winnie said, what concerns most of us right now is the involuntary social distancing imposed on us because of the pandemic. Funny enough, I actually had a similar experience in the past. Before the pandemic, every so often I stayed with some monks in a monastery in Belgium. And for them, they don't really need to adapt to the so-called new normal because they have been self-isolating for decades anyway. And every day, precisely at 5 o'clock in the morning, the bells will ring and everybody gets up. At 9 o'clock in the evening after Vespers, the whole place will fall into silence. They eat 3 meals together every day, also in silence, with the exception of Sunday lunch. This is the monastery, this is the cemetery, one of my favorite places of the monastery. My experience staying with the monks does make me wonder if social distancing is necessarily a bad thing, or perhaps we could learn something from them. This was one of the rooms I stayed in, and I usually stay there for about 2 weeks at a time when I could, like Winnie did, when I could have the luxury to read the kind of books I like to read. And I was able to do more creative works in 2 weeks than I did in London in an entire year. And again, just like what Winnie said early on, you know, in cities in London, there were just too many distractions, too many emails, too many networking events to attend, too much noise. Solitude, or even just simply quiet time, if you like, is actually a quality we couldn't afford to have before the pandemic, if we think about that. Solitude is a treat, but obviously you wouldn't get this quality even in a monastery if you take your smartphone with you. I was on my own most of the time in a monastery, and self-isolation gave me the opportunity to question the consumerist culture, as well as to question what really constitutes an authentic life. Now, this desire to seek quiet time is certainly shared by many people living in cities. For example, quite a number of my clients specifically asked for this quality in their projects, even before the pandemic. This one is a tiny studio flat in London, and I try to emulate a lot of the qualities of the room in the monastery. There's another example, which is this one, is a 2-bedroom apartment, also in London, currently about to go on site. And this time it was inspired by the qualities of Hammershøi's painting, the solitary interior of Copenhagen in the late 19th century, and also the aesthetic of the Japanese wabi-sabi as well. The quality of seclusion I found in the monastery has inspired many of my smaller new build residential projects. After all, we tend to forget about maybe 30 to 50% of the population are introverts. They absorb energy by being on their own. Now, for example, this is a house I designed in London a couple of years ago. The house is actually to the right, not to the left. And you will only see a wall facing the street, but behind the wall is a hidden house accommodating 2 self-contained apartments with internal courtyards. And here is another example, again in London. Most of my works are in London. I wish I could build something in Hong Kong someday, but who knows. This is a 2-story inward-focused house in south of London, and in South London. And this is one of my favorite ones, a new build house in the middle with commercial space on the ground floor and a 1-bedroom apartment on the 1st and 2nd floors, facing a famous and busy street market in East London. Again, here, I was trying to create an inward-focused living environment in the hustle and bustle of London. I'm not suggesting everyone has to seek solitude during the pandemic, but obviously there's nothing you can do if you're living with your family. But again, you should just cherish the time you spend with your family. My point is, if we have no choice but to have social distancing measures in place, we might as well, like Winnie said, we might as well make the best out of the situation and learn to embrace self-isolation like the monks and many other creative minds always do. That's about it, really. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tsz-wai. Fantastic work, I have to say. Very impressive. So maybe now it's time to bring back the discussion to maybe touch on both of the topic. Let me. Can you see my screen now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Winnie said to us earlier, she brought her laptop, mobile phone, you know, all the office equipment, sketchbook, etc. to the quarantine camp. Actually, her work didn't stop, right, during the quarantine.
Not really, yeah.
Not really. So I just wonder if maybe I brought you to this image here, which I find it very interesting. And then how people are queuing, like now in pandemic, like with the 1.5 distance, you know, we are facing the cell phone. And before, on the right-hand side, even without the 1.5 distancing, we are still facing the cell phone. So what are the difference? I mean, it's a very interesting topic when I heard Winnie talking about what are the difference between you are isolated or you're in the office. In the office, you're with your laptop, with your iPhone, and then in the quarantine camp, you're with your iPhone, and you know people can still call you. So I just wonder, is the technologies making a difference, or actually is not making a difference to our current situation? I mean, the physical situation.
I really like the presentation of Tsz-wai, particularly when my own experience, I was forced to go under isolation, while Tsz-wai chose to do that for a reason. I discovered the reason where Tsz-wai know that that's the reason that he wants to find, right? So to me, it's actually a journey. I don't know that the good side of isolation will eventually come out. It's it only, you know, comes to me, and I realized that after the 2-week experience. And so that's why I bring my phone, bring my laptop, because that is not a holiday for me. It's something suddenly happens to a family. I have to keep my other family member informed that we are safe, we are okay, because they are very worried, obviously, about the whole thing. And it also is not a holiday for me away from the office. I didn't apply any leave, so I still have the duty to take care of some of the office work by my computer and my iPhone. But at the same time, I think I'm a combination. I'm not in full isolation and full separation from my office duties, but I do have this chance to have a taste of that sort of isolation in a monastery like Tsz-wai, and I know the value of that by a tasting of that experience. Maybe shorter than what Tsz-wai did. It's just maybe over the weekend, or from Friday night until, you know, Sunday night. But it's a very good experience for a city dweller like me, and actually so good that I've shared with some government department, and I said, look, after the epidemic, can we keep some of these units so that some NGO can come and run them like urban retreat? people can book them for a week or 2 weeks. Don't bother me. I want to be in isolation or solitude, to have my own time, own space. And the management it's just very simple. Give 3 meals a day, very simple meals. That's it. And have a WhatsApp group and to make sure the person is safe. It's just that. Can we have something new? Like Paul said, a new building type and a new service in Hong Kong. Self-isolation hotel or self-isolation camp that you can choose to do this once a year. I think everyone should do that and try that once a year for a week or 2 weeks. It's a very healthy process, actually, mentally and maybe even physically.
It could be a new type of
new
business,
building,
right?
new business.
Yeah, or like a detox camp.
Yeah, detox journey. Yes, great.
Right?
Yeah, well, I was blown away by these 2 pictures. Paul, could you send me these 2 pictures after this webinar, please? They're really powerful. I think it's really challenging to remain positive while we're still in the middle of the pandemic, but I believe it will eventually go away. So the point I'm trying to make is we'll eventually move from the picture to the left back to the picture to the right. And one thing we must bear in mind is that unlike the climate change, COVID-19 is not an existential crisis. Humanity have overcome far worse pandemics in the past. I think we really need to look at it in perspective. It will eventually go away, because if we can't overcome this pandemic, that's the end of humanity, but it's not going to happen. Yeah. And also these 2 pictures are really powerful in the sense that they remind us of the fact that what is really separating people is not social distancing. What really are separating people are the echo chambers created by, again, I'm going back to algorithm, AI. What really are, now these 4 people to the left, they are all in their own echo chambers right now. The moment when, well, they might be actors acting, I don't know, but you get my point. And what really are separating people are our ever increasing sense of entitlement and our sense of self-importance as well in this digital age. And I know maybe I'm being too cynical, but capitalism loves these qualities, because without them, it just can't sell you anything, period. So I'm just trying to make a not quite successful attempt to answer your question, Paul. I think the underlying problem is really complex. Is this, consumerist culture, and is really building up a technology, a platform that is currently getting out of control. Maybe I'm being too cynical here, but these 2 pictures said it all. They communicate the idea pretty well, and it's really worrying. And because we can see this is our future. This I really hate to say that, but it's really sad to see young people even before the pandemic gathering around the table, and each of them was really pretty much on her or his smartphone, and it's really sad to see that, because I don't know. I mean, we didn't have that growing up. We value really deep conversation, and when we spend time with each other, we really spend the time with each other, not with the phone. And I don't know the answer to that, but it's just really kind of very the pictures you put up here are really provocative, and I'm sure that the issue you're presenting here would resonate with most people in the audience.
But Tsz-wai, I like what you said. These images shows a phenomenon that we are worried about. But what it shows is physically, these people, while they are staying so close together, they are not connected and not talking to each other. But on the other hand, my experience is that this new technology, I have a son in UK and a son in Hong Kong. With this new technology, I think sometimes I find me more connected to my son in UK than the one in Hong Kong. Depends on the character.
Yeah.
The one in UK, he likes to talk. He likes a lot of sharing, a lot of idea. So at one time, I was late for dinner. He wanted to call me and talk to me. I said, okay, can I eat my dinner as you talk to me? So he's like enjoying a dinner with me while he was in UK. He is the one who wants a lot of things that he wants to share. But on the other hand, the younger one who was actually inside the room, he was on his own with his computer and other things. So it's all depends on the people. And it's a new means that allow you to connect to the people and do real sharing wherever he is. So maybe these people are very actively sharing a lot of ideas and be close spiritually with someone on the other side of the world, while physically we just see them in isolation. So it's a very interesting human relationship being developed, right? Previously, the physical togetherness and the mental togetherness are as one. But now it can be physically far apart, but mentally or the emotionally very close together. So we'll see. We'll see how it will drive our behavior, and it's very interesting to observe.
Absolutely. I think it's always two sides of the coin, and depending on how you see things. So I think it's time for me to open up the the comment from or observation from the floor. Any audience or participants want to contribute a few comments or observation or anything you find interesting to our content tonight? Feel free.
It's always those awkward moments.
Yeah. I mean, just, usually this time just waiting for the first brave person. Tsz-wai, while we are waiting for some brave candidate coming up,
it might never come.
I saw, it never come up. I saw you quoted in your in your presentation that there's a gentleman called Herbert Wright.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's a writer, right? He was here. Yeah, but I think he's he left now.
Yeah, okay, fantastic. Well.
Yeah, he joined us. I mean, you quoted his some of his saying, and then he actually appeared. Oh, it's amazing. So he was a friend of yours.
Yeah. He's in the film as well. He's the narrator for the film. He's the voice, narrating the film. So.
Oh, I see. Yeah. I was about to ask his his view on the content, but he unfortunately he left.
Disappeared at the right time.
Yeah. I do receive some comment from the audience. A question from Justin. He asked, if the Hong Kong build space is our personal and collective memory, how is the redistribution of people, city space to other public space during COVID-19 affecting our sense of self and community?
Wow.
Can you see the question? Maybe I.
No, actually, no.
Maybe I reposted here. Sorry, Justin.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, I can see it now.
How is the research? Hong Kong-based bases are personal and collective memory. How is the distribution of space?
I can't.
Understand.
I can't get the main focus of the question.
How is the distribution?
I think maybe I try to interpret like I think because
can we ask the gentleman to clarify?
Yeah, sure. So I'm just trying to Justin, do you mind clarifying a bit, or you mind speaking up again for your question, please, Justin?
There's another question about BIM.
Yeah. Justin, just reply me. That Justin, you want to speak? Hi, Justin. Yeah, now we can hear you.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you for taking my question. That's amazing. I noticed in Tsz-wai's presentation that he was talking about the sort of Hong Kong built environment being this collective and personal memory that we have together. And I was wondering if people are moving sort of to spend their time out of this city and out of this built environment to these public spaces, to these parks and to the outside areas, like how is that affecting our sort of sense of this collective idea of our memory of these common spaces that we've spent together? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Well, Justin, it's wonderful to hear your voice. Justin is a very old friend of mine. I haven't seen him for years, literally. Can I see your face? If there's a chance to but never mind. I do appreciate we have to press on. To answer your question, I think the idea of the construction of private and collective memories is a process. So in an ideal world, it wasn't because of the pandemic. We go out, we live our life, we interact with people, we shake people's hands, and so on and so forth. And all these little episodes will build up a personal narrative, a personal journey. And when we look back and they form our collective memories. And the COVID-19 situation will alter that. We don't know for how long, but this year, I think for many people, maybe not for me, but for many people, year 2020 will be remembered as a lost year, really. And because we couldn't really have the opportunity to, for example, Winnie mentioned early on, I love dim sum, I love Chinese tea, I love going to Chinese restaurants to try dim sum. And this year, the opportunities to experience that were rather limited. And even if you could do that, the experience wasn't quite the same, because you were always worrying about catching the virus and all that. Even is a risk to go out. So I don't know whether I managed to answer your question successfully, Justin. Does it make any sense to you, or is all nonsense? Oh, we couldn't hear him. Is he still
Hi,
here?
yeah, thank you very much for, it's very interesting to hear your views.
Yeah. So I take it as a yes. Answer the question.
Thank you, Justin. Shall we come to see another question? Wayne asks, like, how BIM help Hong Kong architecture in future if building department are not updating their BIM skills?
I suppose this is a question for a government.
To you.
Yeah, it's a government for a government. Well, BIM obviously it's changing the construction industry, and I think everybody is contributing a lot. Actually, the change, everybody has to make great efforts to make this happening. And I'm old enough to experience the previous change from the manual drawings to CAD, right? It's the same. I joined ASD at the time, and everybody is still drawing with his ink pen and ruler. And now, and then someone suddenly came and said, oh, we have to use our computer, CAD, and email come. And it changed our working habit entirely, and we are embracing it. And now this is the second time that I've experienced this change. And actually, when we first talked about BIM to our collaborators, like our industry partners, institutes, initially they are very worried. They are very worried how the resources they have to put in, and all the concerns about training and all that. But they are adapting to this very well, and the government has done a lot to help, including providing funding through the Construction Industry Council to help consultants firm and contractors to change. And for BD, they are updating their BIM skills. And when we are doing the quarantine camps, actually we have the looking ahead, and we are planning ahead to change these quarantine camp one day when they are no longer needed into, say, other uses, including like transitional housing. So these transitional housing, if they are really turning into transitional housing from these quarantine units, they have to go through the BD approving process. So we have been working closely with BD on these new modular construction, and we know that they are ready to accept the advancement and these new technology, and they are also working hard on these electronic submissions. So it will be coming. It will be coming to the industry, and we have to look at the mainland China. Everybody can see that the construction technology, robotics, and the use of AI in all walks of life in mainland China are moving really fast. And so our quarantine camps are working also very closely with factories in mainland China. Their BIM drawing, I tell you why we can work so fast to fight the epidemic by building these quarantine camps. Like the first batch is built more than 118 units were built in 26 days. Because I have been communicating with the factory, with the contractors through BIM, the drawings, through WhatsApp. We talk about the schemes day and night. We need that speed to overcome difficult time like the epidemic. So the BIM is the new trend, and it's very clear. So everybody, all the works department are moving towards that direction. And I know in the private practice, there are some challenge, like whether the fire services department are also ready to read the BIM drawings and all that. So we need to tackle that, but the direction and the vision ahead is very clear.
Thank you, Winnie, for giving us the insight. I know I completely agree. I was sitting in some of the committee. I know Billy is working hard and moving forward to it. So no doubt we are moving together towards that.
Yeah.
So I'm afraid for the time limit, I have to take one last question from the floor if there's any. If no, I'd like to thanks again for Winnie and Tsz-wai for fantastic sharing and the discussion and the view. It's really inspiring to see some of your personal view, even your personal life, Winnie. Our experience. And it was just amazing to have you two with us tonight. So for the audience, our this evening's discussion was recorded and will be uploaded into our webpage. If you want to send to your friend later on, please feel free to do it. And then just a heads up to our next event would be the virtual exhibition. So if you want to see Tsz-wai's full film, that would be a chance to do that. So stay tuned to our Venice Biennale webpage or Facebook, and we will announce that. So once again, thank you very much, Winnie and Tsz-wai. And everybody.
Thank you for inviting. Thank you, Tsz-wai. A very good sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Benny.
Bye-bye.
Okay, and have a good evening, everybody. And until next time, stay safe and happy. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
See you all. Bye-bye.